Good afternoon, everyone. This is Tim, your host on the till 3 p.m. today. Now, I've got a special guest with me. Chris is going to be hosting, me for an hour, and he's going to be talking about finance. So I'm going to be getting Chris online, with regard to helping you understand ways in how you can, increase your net worth, increase your streams of income, and if it is on the side. Now, we know this has been a bit of a conversation as to, a bit of a consideration as well, because of the fact that during last year, or even when it came to the pandemic, when we were locked in at home, we were always considering ways as to how, if you were only reliant on one stream of income, how else you came to a point where you realized how dependent you were on that stream of income, and how else would you be able to earn if it's not for that. So I mean, apart from the fact that we've had multiple industries crash, if it's the hospitality, if it's been the logistics or services industries, you basically had quite a bit of an impact on you, if you, regardless of which position you are on your company role, right? But now Chris Jones is going to be talking to us, and he's going to be giving us a few tips on how you could look at positioning yourself in the future on overcoming a situation like this. So I'll be getting Chris online first, but before that, I'm going to show you a quick video about who we are and then what Relax Radio is. That's right. You can find us on the App Store. You can find us on Google Play. We are on all streaming, if it's Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. So now I'm going to get Chris online. Chris is going to be talking to us, like I said, about finance. Hi, Chris. How is it going?
Hi, Tim. Thanks. Good introduction there. Well done.
Awesome. Chris, so we'll jump straight into it. If you can give us a bit of a history on yourself, telling us from where you are, what you've been studying, or if it's come to your experience, if you can just let us know what your history is.
Sure. So my accent may give me away. I'm a South African living in London. I've been kind of in the financial industry for the last 22 years now. Started life as a stockbroker. I think if you see on the movies those guys that stand on the floor and shout at the boards, I did that for a living. I was actually one of those guys. So started life in that environment. Came to London in 1996, and then kind of on and off, back and forth between London and South Africa ever since. I now live in London with my wife and my daughter, just outside in Kent, and I work in financial services here. I run a financial services company that offers financial advice to UK people as well as people around the world. The interest in finance.
So how long?
Sorry, yeah.
I'm gonna be asking you a lot of questions now, even in that bit that you just spoke to us about. So if it comes to when you came to England, yeah, sure. You said it's fine to interrupt, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. So I'll be talk now. Now, when you came to England, what was the story there? How did you come? Why was it? And give us a brief on that.
Yeah, so I was working on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange as a what we term an open cry trader, and in
So how old
June
were you?
1990s. It's a long time ago. 24, I don't know, 23, 24. It's a long time.
Awesome.
I'm 47 now, so hopefully my math is right. And
So 23 years.
they, something like that, yeah, 22, 23 years. And
Yeah.
they were changing the open cry to the electronic systems.
Okay,
back in the
so
day.
you moved in alone, or what was the story there? Were you married then, or
No, no, came here alone.
right?
And I only met my wife in 1999.
Okay.
So there were a few years yet to go there. So yeah.
So then coming into work now, when it comes to your the finance sector, how tell us about how you see the finance industry, or if what fascinates you about it.
Look, I think if anyone wants to kind of live in this world, you need to understand money, right? It kind of underlies everything we do. I know there's a good saying that we had in the finance sector is that Mother Teresa was one of the best entrepreneurs on the planet because she had to raise large amounts of capital in order to help the people she did. It didn't come for free. She didn't pay it to herself, fair enough. She gave it away, but it still underlines the point that she understood money quite well. So it's the way the world works, and knowing the systems that govern that is important. And it was important to me so that I understand, how to live a more effective life, basically.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm with you on that. I agree 100%. Now, coming further, down. I mean, when we're talking about how and where you've been actually working, what is the story there?
Look, I've worked for large banks. I've opened and sold my own finance companies. I currently own my own finance company here in the UK. And I've worked for smaller companies, for bosses. So I've done the whole gambit. And it gives you good experience. Owning your own company isn't for everyone. And to make sure that everyone understands, owning your own company doesn't mean you're going to get rich. Or even that your
Yeah,
chances are
yeah.
greater. It's a hard game, as you know, and as I know, it takes time. So sometimes working for someone else, and then building out from there is a lot easier and less riskier as well. But the reason I have my own companies as well for a lot of ways is that I've done it for a long time, and we understand how to put the effort in.
Right. And so, Chris, talking about now, if we are coming to the topic around, as a person, how could you really look at increasing your, looking at what approach would you say, what problem do you see as that most people or the majority of, individuals employed, let's say between 18 to 30, 35 or so. So between that range, how would you say, what considerations or what points should they, what perspective should they look at their income, or increasing their net worth as people, their personal net worth, or increasing their side streams of income? How would you say, what kind of purpose, or how would you say they need to increase the consideration? What approach do they need to first take?
It's a big question, Tim. I don't think an hour covers it all.
I mean,
But
to be honest, I'm in this category as well, so I think this could help me as well personally. I'm glued in. I'm glued in right now.
well, look, what I think what we can do, and we discussed this off air a bit as well, is to say we put the headlines out there, and they may form the basis of future shows to go into the detail, right? Because income comes in multiple forms, from being employed, getting a salary, through to drawing income from retirement funds and everything else in between, which includes your own business, consulting, dividends, rental income, things like that. And each one has its merits, and each one also conversely has its pitfalls. And we certainly will go into that, because this is just a kind of an overview. So first of all, cash flow is king. That the bottom line, it doesn't matter if you do not have, and I've been in the position where you don't have cash coming in, that overrides everything. Financial stress, especially when you can't meet your bills at the end of the month, is overriding. It overrides everything, and it's all consuming. So the first thing you need to do when you're considering not even increasing income, but stabilizing yourself, especially through what we've all been through in the pandemic. People have lost their jobs. People sometimes have had to retrain and start again, so they've gone all the way back down.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what you've got to do is stop the outgoings. Stop the outgoings exceeding the income as quickly as possible. And that's hard to do, because we've got to pay rent. We've all got to, pay our bills. We've all got mobile phones. And when you're stressed, you're spending money on additional stuff because it makes you feel better. So it's getting out of that little hole, and I always say little, is quite important. And the first thing we do is we say stop digging. And by stop digging, I mean stop, think, and say, okay, I need to just match my outgoings. How can I do that? In what capacity? Do I go get a job? Do I go get a part-time job if I don't have a job now? Do I get social benefits? Whatever effect it can have to equalize your outgoings and your ingoings does a number of good things, even if it's not what you want to do now, and it's certainly only a short-term solution. It psychologically puts you on the right track, because now you've solved a big problem. It is a relatively big problem. To people who are going through it, it's a big problem. And you've solved that, because now you're something like on footing, and you don't, while you still have to consider ingoings, outgoings, and ingoings, income, you don't have to, it's not a worry, because you can match your bills now, right? Once you've done that, and once it happens, you look back and you think, oh, that was easy to solve. But once you're in it, it's hard. Okay, so that's your first step if you are in that situation. If you're not in that situation and you have income coming in and you're covering your bills and you may have a little bit of extra income, but you want to increase it, what do? Well, you look at the various streams. Having multiple streams of income is your next step. So you have a job as an argument, and you have income coming in. And then you say, okay, well, I'm going to go buy a flat because that will bring you rental income. Okay, good idea. But
yeah,
have a look at it. In the investment world, we work on a thing called yield. It's all encompassing to investment professionals. And what yield basically is, yield isn't the capital return, i.e., you put £100. I know we're an international audience, but I'm in the UK, so let's just talk pounds if that's okay. You put £100
yes,
away, and at the end of the year, you have £110. So you have a 10% return. Now that's what we call a capital return. That's not a yield. A yield is something that you receive. So if you put money in a bank account and they give you interest on that account and you get 25p back interest on the money in your account, that's the yield. That's the interest you got. It's similar.
So that is that, is that also called the I mean, another word for that, I think, or term for that could be return on investment, correct?
Not yet. No, we can get to that
Right.
that in a second, because
Right.
just to cover that all quickly, return of investment is the capital and the interest or the yield returns put together. What I'm talking now is primarily income, which is increasing your cash flows. So you have your job, and then you either want to buy an income or invest for income. Buying an income, you can buy a property, and the income from that property is the rent that someone pays you, right? And yes, there are outgoings. So the outgoings could possibly be the mortgage on that property, the maintenance, various aspects. And what's left, whatever rental is left that you can put in your pocket, is your yield on that rental property. And if you work it out correctly, a lot of people don't get that math right. So they lose money on it because they say, and I deal with a lot of people like us, and they say to me, the first thing I ask if they've got a buy to let or a rental property is, are you paying into it? And if they say yes, I say, why? It could be a fact of, well, I can't sell it now because the market's too low, and I understand I need to sell it because I'm making a loss on it. Or, no, it's going to increase in value over time. If they say the second or the latter one to me, then there's a discussion we had like, hang on, it may not increase over time. What if it goes down? So if you want an income out of this, or you're looking to increase your income, then the rent property is good, but you need to clear the debt or charge the rent that makes it profitable to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, for now, I've got no. You immediately now, if we are in the hypothetical situation of where you are earning more than your cash flow is positive, you are earning more than what your costs are on a monthly basis, and you're looking at moving your extra cash into a situation where, let's say, you're looking at an additional stream of income, passive stream of income. So your immediate consideration there was an apartment, rental, or real estate. So
it's not the only one. It's just the first one because it's the easy one for people to understand.
Right.
It may not be the best one for that individual because that's why we are regulated when we give financial advice, so we get the relevant information.
Right. So right now we're going to be talking further into this, and to understand what are the industries you can actually consider when you're if you are an individual looking at increasing your income. Now, so with this we'll be talking about understanding how you need to pick the industry, how you are to look at your yield or your return on investment, and then moving towards understanding, coming to a point where you actually have more passive income. So now we are we're talking about increasing your net worth or increasing the amount of streams of income you have. We have Chris on board. My name is Tim. This is the Buzz, and we're talking about everything, entrepreneurship, finance, business, tech, on the Buzz. We are with you every weekday all the way till 3 p.m. from 12 p.m. This is Relaks Radio. You can call us up. You can actually join the call as well. You can, let us know what your questions are. Feel free to comment on the video. You can call us up on our WhatsApp number. It's 07852473473. And what we'll do is we'll be right back with you after this quick videos just to explain about how you are going to understand which industry you need to, or how you need to pick the industry as to where you're going to put your additional income. This is Tim, and I'm with Chris on the Buzz. We'll be right back with you after this quick break. Good evening, everyone. This is Tim. I'm with you, and we have Chris online today. He's talking about considering your net worth, or increasing your flows of income, your cash flow, and how you need to consider if you are in a position where you have a positive yield, positive cash flow. How are you looking at improving your assets or your net worth? Now, Chris was talking about yield, and we came to the real estate market considering the way as to how you can maybe purchase an apartment and then look at earning from that rent. So Chris, now when we were talking about yield, how else would what other markets would you consider, and how are we looking at with the example that you gave us, how are we looking at going ahead with it?
Well, look, so having a property is only one scenario, and I just want to reiterate, this is all dependent on the person, what they need, what they're looking for, their excess income, things like that. The other areas that you have that allow for additional forms of income, of course, is opening your own company and doing something that adds value to people that may not exist or does exist that you can do better, is a good source of income. It may sound quite complicated to a lot of people, but it isn't. It's quite simple, and as long as you know a few simple things, it can be quite good. It can be quite lucrative. And there's a lot of people who open their own companies while employed with the permission of their employer, of course, and then eventually move full time into them. I mean, it doesn't always happen, but it can. So that's another
So
area.
looking at CS Jones, now how would now if you have me approached you as a potential client, what would you be your steps in terms of apart from calculating what my cash flow is, what my costs are, and then helping me recognize what I should put my extra cash into? What would be your steps there?
So I think first of all, what we do is we have the initial meetings that I have with clients involve full fact finds and disclosures from the clients to me so that I can build a financial picture of them in my head. And it involves your assets and liabilities. It also involves you, family members, what you want to do in the future, what your aspirations are, what your goals are, because these all help to build a picture of, okay, how do we go from where you are now to where you want to be? And what are the steps along the way? Because that's a plan, right? And we just happen to put financial in front of it. That's all. And part of that plan, which is quite key to it, is your needs, objectives, and goals. Because it's not what I think is good for you, it's what you want to do. And can we do that as cost effectively, as tax efficiently, and within your specific risk profile going forward for the time period you need? Of course, if you're a bit unrealistic, i.e., you earn £10,000 this year, you want to be a millionaire in 5 years, I probably can't help you. But we can build things up. A lot of people with excess cash don't have enough money to buy an apartment. But what they do have is they do have enough money to start contributing to tax efficient investments and savings plans, such as what we have in the UK and around the world. So around the world, you have pensions. Almost every country has pensions, and those are discussed as a tax efficient savings plan. However, they don't increase your income right now. That's saving money now for when you retire, because most of the pensions around the world you can only access from 55 onwards. The other tax efficient savings, such as individual savings accounts here in the UK, allow you to save money in a tax efficient manner, i.e., there's no tax charged on these accounts, and they
Right.
are accessible. So people can use them to start saving up for deposit. There are limits to what you can do. So there's a £20,000 limit in a individual savings account, but it's a good start, right? And you can, each person can have one, including your children. And there's a limit. The £20,000 doesn't apply to child individual savings account, that's a lot lower. It's £4,128. So there's those considerations. So we'd probably start talking around that. Then you look and say, okay, now I've saved for a couple of years. I've got a bit of capital behind me. What do I do? Where do I put it? And then you start talking, okay, so now you want to attract yield, you want to do your own company, or you want to do something of that nature where we have a good base, we have a good foundation, so that if anything happens, you are not left with no money. And that's important, right?
Right.
You don't want to risk it all. You need what we call an emergency cash situation, and we usually say 3 to 6 months. However, it can happen that extends longer. So if you're doing anything, keep your job. Okay, don't leave the job, and start saving slowly. And we build up and we build it up. And you'll find one of the things in finance is compound interest. It's also with time. You keep saving, you keep doing it consistently, and all of a sudden, 5 years goes by, because that does happen, right? I mean,
Right.
And now you've got options.
So, Chris, now to add to now what you were saying, would you consider this a best case scenario where, if someone was, currently running a job, currently at a full time employment, and they were in a particular situation, if they were to get off that and just start their business right away from scratch?
You broke up, Tim. Sorry.
Hi everyone. So we were having, we were trying to understand how, your questions would add value to the conversation. We appreciate you logging in. We appreciate staying tuned in. You can always feel free to comment. You can add value, add to the chat here. You can call us up on 07852473473. Just let us know what you want, what type of position you are in. Just one of you, we can evaluate where you are right now and how you can consider you increasing your net worth or increasing your stream of income, your side hustles, or your passive income. So Chris, going back to the question, coming back to what you were talking about now with the positions as to how you set your goals. This is as important as putting in the work, right? Before you start putting your aside on a monthly basis or a weekly basis. So how would you set goals? What would you say, as what if it comes to CES Jones, how do you see your customers, and how do you give them advice in terms of setting their goals?
It's a good question, and goal setting's important, but it's not the be all and end all. I think first off, you need to be realistic. I think bottom line, you can't everyone says aim high, blue sky thinking, chase a big goal. You know, let's just be a little cautious. If you have experience of goal setting and you've chased big goals previously, yes, set a big goal because you understand. If you haven't set goals before, or you're not used to it, or you have set goals, i.e., you've made New Year's resolutions every year and not followed them, then a big goal is, well, it's not really meaningful. So start small. We say, okay,
Right.
let's set a small goal, i.e., a savings target for the next 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years. Where are we going to get to? How are we going to put it
So you
together?
would say
Then,
consider a savings target always.
well, we've got to start, right? Because you want people, one of the most important things in finance is for people to have a cushion, because psychologically, that allows people to have an easier discussion about finance. If you don't
Right.
have that cushion or you don't have that confidence, then discussing finance with me or with a banker or with your friends even is harder because your risk profile is lower. But if you have a cushion, you've covered off some initial goals, you've got some emergency cash sitting there just in case something goes wrong, it becomes a much more productive and meaningful discussion when you start talking longer term about your financial plan.
And when it comes to a point where we brought up the apartment concept, or the situation where we might be able to invest in real estate and then rent it out. What is your take on the concept where, I don't know the term exactly, but if it comes to where if even if you're moving into a relatively large house, a duplex, right, and then you rent it in with other flatmates, they provide to the value, that the loan that you pay off to the bank over time. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, but again, you've got to make sure that you're doing it for the right reasons and you're doing it correctly, and you've just run some simple figures on it, because I'm just taking this at face value because there are many reasons why people will hold on to a property and not earn a profit off it. And let's take all those aside, being that it's their sentimental value, or they can't sell it, or various other bits. So if you're just going to put excess cash into a property, there's a couple of things to be wary of. It is an immovable asset, meaning it doesn't move. It sits in the area, and that creates its own issues because the area around it could deteriorate, or conversely, it can, of course, gentrify or increase in value. So you've got those two sides, and no one can know what the future holds. Secondly, the properties are illiquid, meaning they don't trade easily or quickly. So you've got to be concerned with that, because if your money is tied up with the property, you can't actually get that money out in an emergency, which needs to be considered. So buying a property is great. It's not for everyone, and it needs a lot of consideration to come into effect. Why we look at tax efficient investments and a mix of all sorts of incomes and additional yields across the board is to make sure that we look at all scenarios and we give you options. One of my main jobs is to give my clients the maximum options that they can have, given their risk profiles, given their goals, their objectives, and their needs, not what we want them to do. And so everyone's different, and everyone has a different solution depending on what you're looking for, from all the way through to protection policies, to will writing, estate duty, as well as looking at their companies and tax situations. I can see Tim has gone, so I'm just going to carry on with a few notes that I've had. Here in the UK, we have quite a lot of incentives for people to do proper financial planning, which is which allows us to really add value to people. If you are in the UK and you haven't spoken to a financial advisor, it's one of the best things you can do. It doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter how much money you're earning. We don't only cater to the very wealthy. We cater to everyone because the incentives from HMRC here in the UK, as well as the government, pertain to everyone. Yes, if you don't have additional money that you can save right now, that's okay. We can still put a financial plan in place. We can still also talk to you about things. If you're working for someone, you have auto enrollment. Is it the best thing to do? Are you in? Are you out? How do you facilitate this? Also, there are varying levels of advice given where you are in life. So there's a lot of people, 20-year-olds, 20 to 30-year-olds, who don't think that financial advice would be helpful to them. The first time they do, they speak to a mortgage broker or financial advisor to get loan for their home. Well, in your early 20s, we can chat, we can have a look, and we can set things up and put things in place that allow you to benefit from them later in life. See you back, Tom. Tim? Gone. Then as you go through,
Yes.
if you go, yeah, you're back. There you go.
Yeah, I am. Go ahead, Chris. I'm sorry for that.
I'm just rambling on. Just rambling
So,
on.
so we can basically, yeah. I mean, it's not just me here. So we've got now. Now you were talking about how when it comes to CS Jones and how you, as a consultant, how you basically approach your clients, their situations. What now? Let's say we were talking about situation rental or in terms of debt. Like in and also before we go, I really want to know what your take on blockchain, cryptocurrency. This is a hot topic these days. It's been it's been the talk of the town for, I don't know, weeks in the finance market, right? And what your take is on it, what your take is on various cryptocurrencies. Just a simple one would do. I mean, if you are invested in it, I'd like to know what your take is. I mean, because you have quite a few influencers in it. You have people like Elon Musk properly endorsing certain coins, and then, but if you talk about people like Samat Palihapitiya, Mark Cuban, these guys are highly invested in these. So talking about these, what your take is.
Okay, so this goes back, and I'll go back all the way to my stockbroking days, where on the open crowd market, when we were shouting at the boards, there weren't many people, unless they were the directors of the companies we traded, that knew more about those companies than we did. Okay. And we used to say, as soon as someone tells us to buy a share, i.e., someone not in the financial services sector, if we haven't sold it, we sell it immediately, right? So that was our saying there. Talking about the
Why is that? Why do you have that strategy?
I'll come to it now. The second point that I'll build onto this is
Yeah.
When you have these influencers endorsing anything, right? Uh, and they have a position, i.e., they own whatever they're endorsing. For example, blockchain currency, and we use Bitcoin because that's the biggest. Uh, you've got to wonder why. There is a legal thing in the stock market. It's called talking up your book. Meaning, I own the share, and then I go to all my clients and I tell them how wonderful the share is, so they buy it, and it drives the price up, and then I sell it. It's it's a legal practice. So when we used to say, and I'm going to go full circle here to say, if someone from outside our industry or who isn't regulated or educated to talk about investments and asset classes tells me to buy, and I get it on the golf course, I get it, at the petrol station, I get friends saying to me, "Oh, buy blockchain," and I'm like, okay, hang on. First of all, where are you coming from? What is your modus operandi here? Secondly, why must I buy it? You don't know me. You don't know my situation. You don't know what I'm about. You don't know my money situation. You don't know my liquidity issues. You don't know anything, yet you're giving me advice. So, big red flag, right? Everyone's talking about it now. When everyone's talking about something, it is a bubble. Bottom line, we've seen it throughout the ages, from the railway stocks, tulips, through to the tech stocks, property, all these things. It's a bubble. Thirdly, it's a currency. Bitcoin, Ethereum, all of these are currencies. Yes, very clever currencies. I love the technology. I promise you, I'm a fan of it. Blockchain is brilliant. But please understand this. It is meant for a unit of transaction that is decentralized and not governed by anyone. And it is.
I think that's exactly why people, I'd say, I mean, I've spoken to a ton of people that are invested in it, and that is the exact reason as to why they are, highly invested in it, because they don't want any governing body, looking at it. They believe in the fact that, giving the power to the people. It's the blockchain system is, the foundation is around decentralization, and this is, we can basically have another conversation on this for another day. But
that's another topic, right?
Yeah. But I just wanted your initial take on it. So any other tips?
I own Bitcoin for one reason. I don't invest in Bitcoin. I own Bitcoin because I use it to transact with.
Yeah.
Not illegally.
I mean, people legally. Like Chamat Pelhiyapitiya. Yeah. So these guys, Chamat Pelhiyapitiya. I mean, it's getting convenient, right? So where you don't have transaction fees, you don't have taxes on it yet, at least. And when you're talking about people like Chamat Pelhiyapitiya, now they do endorse it, but then again, one thing I admire about him is because the fact that he's honest with his take on it. He's honest with the advice. I mean, as to what I see, he says not to risk more than 1% of your net worth when it comes to it. So I mean, if you lose it, it's not a big loss for you. But if it goes a 10x or 100x, you're happy. But any other tips apart from that conversation? We can have that on another day. But then we can, talk about any other tips just before we go up, because you need to leave at 1. But talking about any tips as a person, what things you need to consider as a person. How you can discipline yourself, how you think you've learned with yourself, or how you helped your clients learn at CS Jones.
I'd say if you don't have a financial advisor, go find one. That is your first one, is to go talk to someone in the financial industry who's a financial advisor, who is regulated. You can go onto the FCA's website and you can type in my name and you'll see my details there as a regulated financial advisor. It's the same with any other person claiming to be a financial advisor, as long as they're regulated, and have a chat. First discussions, sometimes even second discussions, and all the way up to a financial plan are not charged for. Okay, So that's what I'll leave you guys with today is if that it helps. It doesn't matter how much you earn, it doesn't matter how rich or poor you think you are, have that chat.
Right, right. With that, we'll wrap the show for today. Thank you, Chris, for for being with us 1 p.m. today. I mean, it's been a pleasure. I myself have learned quite a bit, in terms of considering yield, looking at your goals in terms of if you are looking at increasing your net worth or increasing your streams of income. Considering the fact that cash flow is king, these little things, these can mean a lot as well for an individual. Now, this is Relax Radio. This is the buzz. This is where we talk about, everything tech, entrepreneurship, finance as well, improving yourself in your career or as a person. So we'll be back with you next week, every Thursday from 12 to 1 p.m. with Chris. What we'll be talking about next week will be on if you are a startup and how you need to consider, approaching your next big problems, when you are a startup, growth factors, how you need to allocate your finances. We will be here with you on the buzz next week, 4 p.m. on Thursday. So talking about everything I just mentioned with Chris. Thank you for everyone. Thank you for logging in, everyone. We'll be back with you next week, like I said. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Tom. Always good, man. See you next week.
Pleasure.